At its most simple, open access refers to a publishing model for scholarly communication and publishing that makes research information available online at no cost and free from restrictions like copyright. Open access is the free, immediate online availability of research with full reuse rights. This is in stark contrast to the traditional subscription model where readers have access to scholarly information by paying a subscription fee. In the past, open access was not only not embraced by the research community, but it was actively frowned upon by some. Today, open access is seen as the goal by research institutions and funders around the globe. Research institutions and universities like the University of the Western Cape are actively embracing this contemporary age where information is no longer hidden behind paywalls and copyrights, and where information can be accessed and built upon. The Berlin Declaration on Open Access to Knowledge in the Sciences and Humanities is an international statement on open access and access to knowledge, and importantly, advocates for open access to scientific research and cultural heritage. It addresses how the web offers the chance to constitute a global and interactive representation of human knowledge, including cultural heritage and the guarantee of worldwide access. UWC signed the Berlin Declaration to Open Access in 2013. Publishing scientific manuscripts is expensive. In the past, if you wanted your article distributed widely, you would send it to a journal. They would manage the review process as well as typesetting, printing, and distribution. This model worked reasonably well, and it became a good way to distribute papers. Then came two major changes: digitization and subscription price hiking. These two things came to a head and got to a point where absurd amounts were being charged, making the research inaccessible except to the very, very wealthiest of institutions. Often, subscriptions for a single journal amount to thousands of dollars a year for a single discipline. How was this possible, though, if the people writing and reviewing the articles were not even employed by the journal? Science is supposed to be about discovery and the dissemination of knowledge. The concept that scientists, funded by governments and public entities to do research and discover and distribute new knowledge, had their years of work compressed into a paper that was not made available to people made no sense. It wasn't only irrational, it was wrong. Students' education depends on access to current research and journal literature, and professors and lecturers can only teach what they have access to. In countries like South Africa, these expenses are even more of an impediment. It can prevent world-class researchers from being able to contribute fully. A main impediment to the open access movement has been the slow evolution of cultural practices within the broader scientific and research community. Many scientists have been conservative in changing their practices. Moreover, there is a long-standing reliance on impact factor and high-profile journals. There is a real benefit to researchers who embrace openness. The more people see your work, the more people will build upon your work and cite you. In other words, open access is just as good for the researcher as it is for the person who accesses the research. Any discussion about open access goes hand in hand with other domains that are becoming more familiar in day-to-day jargon. These include open science, open data, open research, and open source. At their heart is advocacy for research that is freely available and collaborative, and this doesn't only include publications, but also research data and research practices. Open science is practicing science in such a way that others can freely collaborate and contribute, and where research data, including lab notes, research methods like software pipelines and other research processes, are freely available under terms that allow for reuse, redistribution, and reproduction. Open data is research data that is freely available online for anyone to download, modify, and distribute without any legal or financial restrictions. It encompasses the idea that research data should be freely available to everyone to use and republish as they wish, without restrictions from copyright and other mechanisms of control. Where resources are limited, the appropriate reuse of data enables vital research that is needed to continue to develop and maximize the return on investment in the original study. The central theme of open research is to make accounts of research methodology freely available online, along with any other data or results extracted or derived from the research. Open research allows for more collaboration, participation, transparency, and equality in the research world. Historically, at the culmination of a research project, researchers published papers and reported their overall results and findings and some supporting data, while the underlying raw research data would remain unpublished. This data would usually end up in a lab or an office, often on an obscure hard drive, and would become inaccessible soon after the completion of the research work. This is undesirable for many reasons, not least because those research findings were then difficult to reproduce, and carrying out improved analysis would prove impossible. In the world of constantly evolving software and technology, this is extremely pertinent. For example, data collected a few years ago can be reanalyzed with current tools and result in far improved results. Open source refers to software with source code that anyone can inspect, modify, and enhance. The source code is the part of the software that end users don't ever see, but it's what the developers and computer programmers can manipulate to change how a piece of software works. Programmers who have access to a computer program's source code can improve that program by adding features to it or fixing parts that don't always work correctly. The COVID-19 pandemic has cast light on the power of open access and the real difference that openly sharing research data can make. Open access advocates believe that science spreads and increases best and fastest where there are no restrictions to access, and this truly became evident during the COVID-19 pandemic. As Grace Baines and Mark Harnell have recently commented, the current climate has put a spotlight onto the value and importance of data sharing and curation and good data management for boosting the reproducibility and reliability of research. Its value has never been pulled more sharply into focus as you can see the real-life impact of data sharing as we navigate this pandemic. Attitudes and practices are changing, and collaboration across stakeholders is taking place. This will enable real, effective, and sustainable change for the use of open data and the benefits of open research.